You should be right back.
Okay. Thank you.
Apologies for being late, but I couldn't get the panelist password to work.
That's okay, Tim. I had a similar struggle.
Okay. Hi, Alex.
Hey, Tim, how are you?
Okay,
You got a nice tree canopy in your backyard.
there you go. Wish I had those woods behind my house. It's the end of the semester.
Are you ready, Mr. Smith? Dr. Smith, sorry.
I am ready to go. Yes.
Okay. Roll call. Dr. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Rios? Dr. Garza?
Here?
Dr. McBride?
Here,
Dr. Cunningham? Bishop Hankerson?
here.
We have a quorum.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining. Thanks to any members of the public that are on. Board members, appreciate you doing this ahead of the holiday weekend. We got a bunch of things to cover, but we'll try to move quickly to get through it all. And lots of, some positive and exciting news, I think, from the jail this month. All right, Scott, do you want to get us started and go to the first agenda item on the MacArthur Safety and Justice Challenge Conference?
Yeah, so May 3rd through the 5th, we had over 500 people from 38 states here in St. Louis, downtown, for the MacArthur Safety and Justice Challenge Conference. And we're having an echo. Can you hear okay?
I can, yes.
Yeah, there's an echo though, Scott.
So our IT can work on that in the background, see if they can correct that. But the MacArthur Foundation has funded over $6 million to address population here within the jail, as well as equity. And we had several people that spoke on panels, as well as others from across the country highlighting best practices. And so we actually, that funding has been extended now for 2 additional years. And the plan will be for us to build that into our existing budget so that we can continue all the great work that's been done over the past several years.
Like the population review team, the grant for that is continuing?
Yes, so it'll be an additional 2 years.
Okay, so I know that was something that that Beth Hubner worked on. Is she going to continue working on that remotely, or are there new kind of team leaders that are on the ground? Can you just tell us just a little bit more about what that's going to look like going forward?
Yeah, Beth is committed to continuing to work with us on that project, and it is here also on occasion and participates virtually as well. So those weekly population reduction review team meetings are continuing, and as well as all the other activities. She's still involved in the racial equity study as well.
Okay, great. Well, I'm glad to hear that that the jail is going to continue receiving support from MacArthur. You said $6 million was the original amount. How much is the amount going forward?
It's approximately $2 million additionally.
Okay, and so that funds just so we understand this better, that funds Beth leading a team of folks that are all just flesh it out a little bit more for us.
Okay, so that, the next item on the agenda is the tap-in center.
Uh-huh.
And, so I think I'll go ahead and speak about it because it's part of this funding also. The tap-in
Okay.
center was created, it's located in 2 libraries, and it provides an opportunity for people to come and help get assistance in clearing up warrants and having new court dates set. And the tap-in center just received the North County Cooperative Community Leadership Development Award, and also an award for What's Right in the Region. And we were just advised this week that they also are receiving the national award through National Association of Counties, and will be recognized at their national conference coming up in September. So they've had some amazing work through that project that was initiated 3 years ago through the MacArthur Foundation funding. And we also have staff that are provided by that grant to assist in coordinating all these projects. So we have a team of people that are funded, and they've been reviewing research on the population of the jail. That the dashboards that we have that we review each month are part of that as well.
Is Aaron funded by that, or is he
Yes.
funded? Okay.
I can speak to that, Jeff.
We also have the racial equity study that's being conducted, and there's funding from MacArthur Foundation for that
Hey.
evaluation that's continuing. And then we
Hey,
also
Scott.
are in the process of developing a mental health diversion center, which this will help fund as well.
That's great. That's great. I was gonna ask if this was linked to the, to the planning for the mental health diversion center. Hey, Aaron, I think you were gonna chime in.
I was just going to say that I receive funding both from Justice Services and from MacArthur. So it's, yep. I have projects going in both buckets.
Right.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, thanks for clarifying that. Sorry I interrupted you, Scott. Go ahead.
So we have looked at a facility that's a former Missouri Career Center on Lucas and Hunt and Natural Bridge Road that would provide 17,000 square feet. And it involves 5 departments here within the county, as well as some community partners. And we're in the process with MacArthur Foundation's assistance of planning to visit a fully operational diversion center in Houston, which has been identified as a model for others. And the goal will be to begin, at least to have something operational by January 1st.
January 1st of 2024?
Yes.
That's a pretty quick timeline. Does the building, what kind of retrofitting does the building require?
Well, that's the great news. The build, and not, all of this is contingent on us, that site being, us being able to assume the lease and move forward on that project. So, but the county already has that building under lease, and it has space. There's no remodeling that would need to be done for that facility if we do
Oh, wow.
assume that lease. It was a former Missouri Career Center, so it's already established in the community. It's an excellent location, but there's a lot of other details that need to be worked out. That's just, at this point, the goal because of the lease obligation in that space.
You said there's 5 county agencies that would all be collaborating on this?
Yes. Yeah, so Department of Public Health is the primary agency that would be involved. The prosecuting attorney's office, Justice Services, St. Louis County Police Department, CIT unit, and the Human Services Department for St. Louis County. Currently, Castle is located in that space, and they're a community action agency of St. Louis, so they already are connecting people with other community resources. And adjacent to it is a St. Louis County Police Precinct where CIT officers have worked out of in the past, and we have behavioral health resources and BJC that ride along with police officers as well. So it's really a matter of pulling people in, relocating people from where they're working now, as opposed to a lot of additional staff.
And would Castle remain there?
That's the goal at this point, but I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We're
Yeah.
very early in the planning process, Jeff.
Okay. Well, I mean, I understand that you're early in the planning process, but having a January 1st open date is ambitious, which I like. But that's exciting.
Jeff, quite frankly, there needs to be some urgency to this project, and
Yeah.
I think that we are positioned well to begin to do that. That doesn't include medical beds, which would take a lot more time. I think it's a starting point, so I don't want to mislead you to think that we would be in complete operation, but to have something available is important. And that space, there's some time constraints on that space where we could lose that space if we're not moving forward quickly.
Okay. So when are you planning to go to Houston?
It's being arranged for June.
Okay. And does the Houston facility have like a full kind of psychiatric care component with medical beds?
They do have, and I think that
Okay.
could be in a longer term plan. So when you speak about the timeline, I would expect that there would be several years of development with a project like this. We're
Yeah.
just simply speaking about acquiring that space and moving forward by that date.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Other board members?
Yeah, I had a question as far as the funds for mental health. Just wanted to get some elaboration, specifically how that benefits an inmate. So say you have inmate John Doe that has mental health issues. Kind of break that down for me, how those funds benefit that specific individual.
Well, 40% of the, sorry, I'm having difficulty with the echo behind me on my, so I may be speaking loud, but it's for me to try to actually hear myself speaking. But 40% of the population here, and this is true of jails and prisons throughout the United States, is about 40% of the population. So we have initiated several new strategies to address mental health, and that includes an assessment process and intake. We have our medical staff as well as behavioral health response, screening people, identifying people who need assistance in that area. We also have Relink, who even at arraignment are providing resource information so that even if the person doesn't come into the jail, they can be referred to community resources. And then we also have agencies like Places for People that are inside the jail when people are identified as potentially having mental health needs. So you have a wide range of people with mental health needs, all the way from depression and prior trauma, childhood trauma, all the way up to severe psychiatric diagnoses where they have to be competency evaluations, which can take some time. So we implemented a mobile health unit funded by the state of Missouri Department of Mental Health. They're coming to provide treatment and medication for those with the most severe mental health needs. And we also have identified people that could benefit from being housed in a mental health unit. So we've obtained policies from other facilities, and we're in the process now of creating a mental health unit where we'll have those staff inside that unit providing counseling in groups. One of the suggestions here from the advisory board was addressing trauma. And there's an evidence-based curriculum called Seeking Safety, which is a 15-week group counseling program that is already being implemented by DPH staff and will be available in that unit. And then finally, we are working on the diversion side of things to try to divert people even on the front end that might otherwise end up in the jail. So the individual benefit, I think, is based on those individual needs of the person coming in. But it's very important that we're correctly assessing and evaluating and addressing that, because especially if people are here for a long period of time, without that being available, they could end up in a restricted housing unit for a very long time, which would just exacerbate their mental health condition.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does, and thank you for that. I guess on my wish list would be if 40% of the population has mental health issues, it's great that they're getting that treatment in the facility. But of course, my wish list would be that once they leave the facility, there would be some type of assistance for them so that they don't end up being without the treatment, committing another crime, ending up back in the system. So,
Yeah, excellent point. So we have had 60 volunteers assist in registering every resident that's eligible for Medicaid. They have been registered, and Relink, as well as DPH staff, are providing a transitional release plan so that they are able to continue their mental health treatment when they're released.
excellent. Thank you.
Alex or Tim?
I don't have a lot to say other than this all sounds really good, and the bishop's questions are excellent. And it just speaks to the mental health shortages we have in the area, because I mean, I can't say anything negative about what you're doing. I think it's great, but it's just sort of sad in a way that we have to do this through the jail. It'd be great if we could get them before they go into jail. But that doesn't mean you're doing the wrong thing. You're doing the right thing, especially if you can divert them before they come in or keep them from recidivism. So kudos to you on all this. But I share the bishop's concerns that we just have a lack of mental health resources in this region if 40% of the people going in are having that issue.
So also the diversion center will be a place that has space for public education, and the plan will be to have psychiatrists there that can prescribe medication and help with stability. And there are other facilities in place now, an urgent care center that's available through DePaul Hospital and SSM Healthcare. And we have visited that site, and so people that have a more urgent need can be transferred there. There's also plans to that they have to develop an additional urgent care center at St. Louis University, and also I believe it's a 10-bed facility that people can be transferred from there. So we are working on the front end. Also, the state of Missouri has a budget item for providing 3 state mental health staff here in the facility that could assist with competency assessments and would be in that mental health unit. So I'm very hopeful that within the next couple of months we will be sharing more information. But this is Mental Health Month, and I'm very proud to be announcing this today.
Well, it's exciting. and yeah, we're, you know, last year when we first started having these conversations, I hoped it would go this quickly, but I wasn't optimistic that it would. So I'm really glad that you've just been intentional about following through on all this and you know, putting it at the forefront of your efforts, because as Tim noted, it is, and as Bishop Hankerson noted, there's a huge need in the community, and the more collaboration around addressing it with DPH and law enforcement, the more we can keep people from having their trauma exacerbated in the jail and throughout the justice system. So thank you. Related to that, unless Alex has any questions,
Nope, none, Jeff. Thanks.
let me skip around just a little bit on the agenda and go to the intake process. And, you know, we had some questions a couple months ago around what was being done to create a trauma-informed intake process so that people coming into the jail don't have trauma symptoms again, you know, kind of triggered through the intake process. I'm not sure if Dr. Cunningham is maybe better to address this, or if you can address it. Do you want to speak to it, or is this something we should wait for her to address next month?
Well, so I think I can address it from Justice Services standpoint, and she can address it if appropriate from a DPH standpoint at a later date. But I can share with you that we, our intake unit here during the CGL review, recognized our intake process as one of the best that they had seen in all of the 300 plus reviews that they had conducted. And we have enhanced our process there by bringing in behavioral health response to assist with those evaluations and assessment. Many people that are involved in criminal activity have childhood trauma. And so programs that I mentioned, like Seeking Safety, can be helpful. There are assessments, one called ACEs, that can help in identifying that. And when people are involved as adults in crime, there is trauma. So I think what was alluded to is just the process itself. And so we have staff that are certified from on the behavioral health side, assisting with those assessments. We also are in the process of training, coming up with a date. We've identified mental health first aid training as a training that would be beneficial for justice services and public health staff, especially those that be working with the mental health unit and diversion center. We also, I did not mention that we have a mental health diversion court that's been in place here for some time, St. Louis County also. So there's a lot being done on the very front end to recognize this and address it. The other piece of this agenda item is drug testing. And I would like to clarify that any drug tests that are done are for the safety of that individual. If we have an increased number of people coming into the jail that have used opiates, and we have saved many lives through administration of Narcan and even in some cases CPR. And I want to recognize the staff for their life-saving response to these situations. The drug tests are very important, and we are not providing that information to the prosecuting attorney's office. So any indication otherwise is absolutely untrue.
Okay, that's helpful. That's helpful. I appreciate you addressing that, Scott. Are there other questions around those issues? Okay, why don't we, thanks for addressing both those things. Why don't we back up and talk about Officer Appreciation Week and, you know, related, other things related to your human capital.
We missed the most important thing. The Corrections Officer Appreciation Week was May 7th through the 13th. And so we have very dedicated staff here. While they have been, we have been short-staffed, many of them have worked overtime to make sure that the jail was operating safely. And so we recognized them and had a series of events that week. We had breakfast served for staff Monday and Wednesday mornings, popcorn and soda on Tuesdays, ice cream floats on Thursdays, a barbecue catered lunch on Friday for all shifts. And there were raffle prizes and gift cards, as well as some fun activities, challenges between floors with the Family Feud and guessing who baby photos are. So we had a great week. We recognized many staff. There were directors awards presented to 5 staff who have administered CPR during the past year. I'm happy to announce that we have 15 new officers starting training on Monday, and we have an additional 6 that are planning to start 2 weeks afterward. And we've actually attended a career fair yesterday where we hope that we'll have even more starting within 2 weeks. So we're making progress there. We have interviews scheduled for Deputy Director of Security next Friday, the 2nd round. So a decision will be made soon, and the advisory board will have some input into that process and selection. And we also have.
I appreciate the invitation to be part of that interview panel. So thank you.
Yeah, so we're making progress with our level of staffing, and I expect that we'll continue to make progress there. We have a couple of things too that I want to share. We just in terms of the Corrections Officer Week and staff recognition, I mentioned that the Tappan Center is receiving national recognition from NACO, but another program here that relates to our volunteer work for all of the programs is also receiving a national award. And that includes the volunteers who assist with the education program. We have now completed 4 classes, 2 additional starting within the next week. And all of the participants have received A's, 96 or higher on their history, reading, social 101, oral communications. 141 hours of college credit have already been earned by residents here at the jail. We also have Serve Safe testing today. So we're moving forward with all of these programs, but it takes a lot of work and a lot of volunteer work from people in the community, and a lot of work on our staff's part.
Hey, can we make sure that the Serve Safe graduates, that whether it's hey, is Nate Hayward there? I can't see that clearly.
Yes.
Hey, can you make sure that with the when you have the Serve Safe graduates, that you coordinate with the Transformative Workforce Academy folks to just ensure that they know who's got that restaurant background, so they can pair people, or the food safety and food service background, so that they can connect people with employers in that industry?
Yes, I can. Dr. Smith, can you send me the information?
I will. Yeah. I'll make sure to close the loop on that. Okay. That all sounds good. Any questions from the board? Okay. Let's now skip ahead to the next agenda item that we have yet to cover, which is the quality and content and resident-borne cost of tablet programming. There were some questions a couple months ago about this, and just wanted to follow up on this and kind of get a little more information. First, on the nature of the free educational resources on the tablets and kind of where that content is coming from is the first question. And then the second question, asks about, what costs are borne by jail residents, either in terms of accessing particular content or in terms of communication with loved ones.
Yeah, so the tablets really were a lifesaver during the pandemic. Many facilities are moving toward tablets, but also some still do not have the benefit of this. So in terms of the costs, the telephone calls prior to implementing the tablets was 25 cents a minute. With the tablet, phone calls are less than 5 cents per minute. So it's a reduction of 75%. And we, actually more than that, almost 82%. And so each inmate gets one free number. In 2022, we gave inmates 2,192,254 free phone calls. They can call the free numbers as many times as they want. All intake phones are free at no cost. We also have educational videos from St. Louis County Library that are available at no cost. And kindergarten through 12th grade education app is available at no cost. We have 50,000 free ebooks, as well as free podcasts, radio, law library, job search, church services, drug education. If people choose to purchase additional content, there's a charge of $5 per month to have a device allocated just to them. Otherwise, the tablet is provided no cost to the resident. And residents can purchase additional content such as games, TV shows, movies, albums, music, at a price that ranges based on the item that they're purchasing. All of those have to be approved, and this is a closed, secure system. So they're not accessing things that they shouldn't be. The emails can be received for 25 cents, and photos for 25 cents, and videograms for 75 cents. All of those are screened by our security personnel before being received. Video visits are available for $2 for 25 minutes. So those are significantly lower costs than ever in the past. The tablets also are very helpful for us in terms of providing announcement and urgent information and getting feedback. But one of the things I've mentioned in the past is that applicants now can apply for the BUD program, Building Union University, directly from their tablet prior to release. They also can complete applications for public defender. There was voting registration information provided there for our in-person voting that was implemented. So we're really happy with that. We have had free movies in the past available on the tablet, and we're working to get that expanded as well.
So the free educational content is a mix of offerings from the county library system, as well as 50,000 free ebooks that are, I guess, curated by by Securus.
I don't have the details on where the ebooks are from at this point, but I can get that information. There's a program called K-Like, which is the kindergarten through 12th grade education, and that's available. We have people that are learning different languages here, Jeff. It's just a lot of great access to information that people need, that they have 23 hours per day now available to them.
Well, that sounds great. I'll be traveling to Europe for the first time in my life next month. Maybe you can give me a tablet in the next few weeks so I can learn something before I go.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeff and Scott,
Go ahead, Tim.
this sounds like a great program, and I think anything to make the the people in the jail feel, lift their spirits a bit is good. It sounds like you have, I would think the general public would have concerns around general security, and it sounds like you have that, you have the appropriate walls around that. And a couple things. One, you don't probably have the data right now, but at some point it would be interesting to know. I'm thinking like a academic evaluator, like how often these are used, and pre-post sort of how people how their feelings were changed as a result of these tablets. And if you have any data on that you want to bring back to the committee, it'd be interesting to see that, because that would help validate the program. So
I can tell you that at the time we were starting our college program, over 80,000 hours of educational programming had been completed since those tablets were implemented in October of 2021.
okay,
Did you
great.
say, over 80,000 hours of educational programming?
Yes.
So that kind of gets,
That's good.
yeah, that kind of gets to my second question, and I'm sure Jeff will appreciate this. If, of course, we're the county jail and people are in a limbo before their court cases are decided and all that, but if and when they leave the jail, it's important that they have opportunities. And are there, among the things that are available to them for free, is there things related to jobs and employment and ways they can use those 80,000 hours of education or books that they're reading?
Yeah, definitely. We also have a $4 million Department of Labor grant for job readiness training, and they are assisting people with transitional services for employment when released. We have area hotels and restaurants that are hiring people that work in our kitchen, and laundry facilities and maintenance departments, since they need people that have provided those services for large numbers of people. And we have the virtual career fairs through St. Louis University Transformative Workforce Academy. And we have brought in unions and people employed by unions to talk about how they can get involved with the Building Union Diversity Program. We have had some discussions about possibility of vocational training, but obviously take some time to do this. But when we know that 36% of if a person participates in higher education, they're 36% less likely to commit offenses. We also are now a testing site for the HiSET, which is the high school equivalency. Many people have known about the GED, but the HiSET now in Missouri is preferred. And we can expedite that entire process by being an approved site here. We have had reading and writing classes. We've had college prep classes. So I don't want you to just think we only have the college classes. We recognize that some people even need help reading and writing.
That's all great. And yeah, I think what I was specifically speaking to was on the tablet, would there be ways when they get close to being discharged, would there be ways that they could apply for jobs or training or whatever?
Right now, that tablet is not able to access any type of internet outside of the facility. It's a secure system.
Okay, got it.
But to clarify,
that I mentioned,
Scott,
from the Department of Labor, we do have people that are applying. I think you recall we've implemented wireless technology in the training rooms, so that is being done. And I can try to find out more about the number of people that have gone through that program.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks.
And relatedly, Scott, just, and then we've talked about this before, but what SLU's program is doing is coming in with residents that are preparing to leave and doing video resumes so they get 3 or 4 months to basically share their story and explain their work history and kind of outline their career, dreams and goals. And then Flu's recruited over 100 employers that are second chance employers that they then connect based on the interest and preferences and personality of the detainee that's getting ready to leave. Then they pair them and arrange an initial interview for them when they get home or when they, upon release. And so a lot of them, even though they may not be able to access things directly through the tablet, through a combination of efforts and with Flu's TWA program, they are getting interviews lined up for the minute that they get out.
Thank you, Jeff and Scott. Appreciate it.
Yep.
The program name that's funded by Department of Labor is Pathway Home.
Okay, any other questions on the tablets? Well, appreciate what you guys are doing with that, Scott, as you touched on with the statistic you gave. And as I know we've touched on before as a board, there's really only 2 things that research has ever shown that can happen during incarceration that make people less likely to go back. One of them is educational advancement. The other is close communication with loved ones. And so it sounds like the tablets are, really making progress in both of those areas. So that's positive.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Very important.
Let's go to the next item on the agenda, which is the hold policy for other jurisdictions. And a question that was raised as part of the, I think, public comment last meeting, which we weren't able to get to. But I know that was relayed to you. So the question was, what are the jail's policies on holding residents for other jurisdictions after they've been legally released from their St. Louis County cases? And is it common practice to hold a resident after they were released, or bonded out, if there's an outstanding warrant from a different jurisdiction, particularly if that jurisdiction has not pursued the individual who's preparing to be released?
Yeah, so we process people that are released within 24 hours here, and if goal is to process them as quickly as possible. In some cases where there may be a detainer, we're required to contact those other jurisdictions to let them know before release. And you can imagine if we were to release someone that had a detainer and then another crime was committed, that would be a situation that was not good for anyone, not good for public safety or put us in a position where we could have some liability. So I'm not sure about the framing of the question, but I can assure you that we do everything possible to expedite the release of people from the facility when they have posted bond or the court has ordered their release. But we do have legal responsibilities when a detainer is lodged to make sure that other agency is aware, and that then they either need to withdraw that detainer and we would release them right away, or they would need to arrange to have that person taken into their custody. So we do work very quickly on that, and I would need more particulars about any specific situation that anyone had questions about.
So how long would another jurisdiction have to respond if they've got a detainer in place? How long would they have to respond to you guys?
Typically, if it's out of where it may take longer is when it's another state. And I would have to review data to try to figure out what an average length would be, but that would be what would take the longest. If it's somewhere else in Missouri, then I think that most of those cases are resolved within a matter of days. I don't know. Again, I'd have to look at information to try to determine the actual length of time. I can say that majority of people are released within 24 hours, and the goal is to have them released within that shift so that it's not taking any longer. Sometimes there are conditions of release that might make that longer, like if they have to have a custodian that comes for them to be released to, or if there's a specific order for GPS technology or something of that nature.
Okay, that makes sense. And I understand the obvious public safety considerations that that must be adhered to. Are there other questions about the hold policy? Okay, sounds like you're doing what you can to process people as quickly as possible. And ensure that they're not, just sitting there waiting for other jurisdictions to respond in perpetuity, which is what we want to avoid, right?
Yeah, believe me, we don't want anyone here any longer than we need to have them.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Thanks for that response. Aaron, you want to go to the dashboard?
Sure. I only have a few updates this month. Let me share the screen. All right, is this sharing properly?
Yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to give an update on the population. Let's look at the last 2 months. We are today at 943 as of this morning. It's pretty steady over the past 2 months. I think last time we met was in late March, and we were in the 920s and 930s up to 950. So it's right at about the same place. We did peak a few weeks ago. We had one time when we peaked at 969, but we're down to 943 now. So I think in the, obviously we've had a population increase since last year, but in the last 2 months since we've met, I think it's been relatively static. The other thing I wanted to, and please stop me to feel free to ask questions at any point. The other thing I wanted to highlight is that use of force went back down this month. So we had 2 months, February and March, when use of force was a little bit higher, but in April it was back down at only 24 per 1,000.
That's good to see.
Yeah. The other thing to mention is that we've been pretty steady on average length of stay. Earlier in the pandemic and in 2021 and 2022, we had a lot of times when we were just kind of bouncing. As you can see, both the overall number, which is the thick black line, the overall average length of stay, and the component subgroups for race and gender were just bouncing all over the place. So it was kind of a little hard to get a read on what was going on there. And I think COVID had a lot to do with that. But it does look like in the past 6 months that this average length of stay number has kind of gotten more relatively stable. And it both in the overall number, which is in the low 60s average right now, but also just these component race and gender subgroups have been a little more static and stable and less bouncing all over the place like they were here. So this is good to see in terms of sort of predictability and understanding what our long-term length of stay trend is going to be. as for the supplemental dashboard, the main thing I wanted to touch on here was that in the last 2 months, since we last board meeting was in late March, we've had a very substantial increase in hospital posts per 1,000. I don't know exactly the substantive details to this, and I'm sure that Scott or some other people could speak to this more, but I did in April when I saw that this number here was a lot higher. I asked Trisha Rogers about that, and she said that there were several residents of the jail who had been in long-term stay in the hospital and who were basically like racking up hospital post shifts, because the shifts just add up if somebody is in for a long time. So I'm happy to answer questions on the data, but I'm also happy to pass it off to others if anybody has more comments on this.
Is there a way that you could tell us next month whether that number of hospital posts signifies, as Trisha said, just a small number of individuals there long term, or whether that reflects an actual significant increase in number of individuals?
So I will ask that qualitatively. I know that I just get the raw number in bulk to post on here, but I will ask Trisha if she has any info on sort of the ratio, so to speak, how much of this is the numerator and how much of it's the denominator.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Yep. So we will check in on that next month. But as far as I understood, at least in April, it sounded like it was several people, a small handful of people who were basically racking up the hospital shifts.
Of course. Yeah.
This is Tim. Can I jump in?
Sure.
Of course.
Aaron, thanks as always for your hard work. It's great. And I would also be interested in hearing about the explanation because that's a pretty alarming jump.
We'll look into it
Why
next.
don't I interject here and just save some time? I'll give you, we can't discuss individual cases, but if there was someone that was shot and they needed to be hospitalized because they weren't fit for confinement for a long period of time, that would cause an increase. If there was someone that had other serious medical conditions like a heart condition or something that precipitated being in the hospital for 30 days, that's 3 shifts per day for 30 days would be 900. So you can see how quickly that would increase that category. And it's absolutely correct that there were a few individuals that were in that condition.
Sure.
Based on things that may have happened even before they were brought to the facility.
Okay.
And that's a good explanation. Thanks for providing that. I think I will say mathematically that you can see these little peaks that happen on a monthly basis, and I can't speak to the exact math because I don't know I don't know the makeup of who is making up what proportion of these, but I will say that it is relatively easy to imagine that if one of these peaks is X number of people, then a bigger peak like this could just as well be 2X or 3X number of people.
Okay. I was going to ask about another graph, the resident to corrections officer ratio.
Sure.
That looks to me like it's the highest it's ever been, at least since you recording it here, and it's continuing to rise.
Sure. Well, that's primarily a function of the fact that our population is higher. I mean,
Yeah.
this is the number of corrections officers has not gone down substantially, but our if you think about the ratio, we're talking about 5.5 at the beginning of January and 6.6 now. So that's about a 5.5 to 6.6 is about a 20% increase. And lo and behold, that's also just about the exact degree to which the population has increased since January.
Okay, so it's not a drop in corrections.
It's the numerator, not the denominator. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you can see here on the open DJS positions that there's like there are the number of corrections officer positions that were open went up from January to now, but that's not a function of there being more less corrections officers. It's a function of there being more overall total billets to fill, if that makes sense.
Okay,
So the it might look from this number here, from this graph here, like we had a huge increase or sort of a huge drop in the number of corrections officers from January to February, but that's not what happened. Basically, the number of total slots to hypothetical total slots to fill went up, not people going down.
The county council approved 27.
That's right. Yep.
Positions. And
Yep.
that's what's the increase is the result of.
oh, okay,
They were
great.
actually unfunded and they became available to us.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Other
Does
questions?
anybody else have any questions for me on either of the two DJS dashboards?
It's probably worth pointing out that the population has increased by 200 at one point, just since January.
Yes, we've been since Christmas time, about 5 months ago, we bottomed out at 745 and now we're at 943. As you could see, a substantial portion of this happened very quickly between late December and late January. We went up about 120 people. Fortunately, the rate of increase has slowed down. We're not increasing at the same rapid rate that we were in January, but we still have gone up another 80 people or so since February started. I'm happy to entertain any more questions. I also have updated the corrections medicine dashboards, but I don't really have any substantial updates to present from those. I looked through the data and didn't notice any huge changes. So I can take questions on the DJS dashboards, and at that point, after that, I will pass it back to you guys.
Other questions from the board?
I just took a quick scan of the medicine dashboards. I also agree with Aaron. There's not a huge, I don't see anything alarming to ask about.
Okay, good. All right, well, I will pass it off to the board.
Thank you very much, as always, Aaron.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to be able to visualize everything, and thanks for your responses on stuff, and thanks in advance for looking into just to clarify your and Scott's kind of intuition around the hospital posts. Okay.
Yeah, we'll look into that more next month on a more sort of like definitive basis, but I think
Great.
the intuition there is correct.
Okay, great. Penny, is there any public comment?
There are none this month.
All right.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going back to my wish list now. And this is more of the pastoral side of me coming out.
Uh-huh.
All of the reports are tremendous and informative. But of course, in the place that I sit, I'm really just talking personally. I'm really far removed from a lot of the, shall I say, all the individuals that are residents of the facility. So to me, a lot of it is information, stats, and all of that is great. But what's the possibility of periodically getting an actual resident online with us, or a past resident, to kind of get into the mind of someone that is a resident, to understand them better, so we can make better decisions and better advice? What is the possibility of that?
I would encourage you to come and visit the jail as often as you would like and speak with as many people as you would like. And I don't think that bringing one person onto a public meeting would give you the good information that you're seeking. I would just encourage you to take time and come here and instead.
Excellent. So you said basically as many residents as I desire to see, there's that possibility.
Of course.
Okay, excellent, excellent.
I can say just one thing in the, I guess 4 years, now that I've been on this board, and dozens of times in the facility, I've never had any part of the facility, that I asked to visit that I was not allowed to visit. And I've been able to speak with, dozens and dozens of residents, sometimes one-on-one, without a jail, with the jail supervisor in the vicinity, in the room, just to make sure that everything was okay. But I've had many, many candid conversations with detainees over the years, and unimpeded by correction staff or administration. So I would assume that same courtesy would be extended to all board members. I don't know any reason why it wouldn't, Scott.
Oh, I'd love to see you this afternoon. Come on by.
Excellent, thank you. And what is the proper terminology, Jeff? I'm saying residents, we hear inmate. What is the proper terminology?
I tend to call them, I try to use people first language. So, residents, detainees, but always important to note that, Aaron can check me on this, but, 98% of the people in there have not been convicted, of a crime. They're there pending adjudication of their case. And so taking care to recognize that in our language, I think, is important. So residents or detainees, I think, are appropriate terms. Tim or Alex may have other thoughts, but
No, that's my understanding as well. It's a great question, Bishop Hankerson. And I sometimes try to remember what the right terminology is, but Jeff's point about the fact that people are innocent until they're proven guilty is really important. So they're people. They're always people, but I try to use residents when I can.
all right. Our next meeting date is scheduled for June 23rd. I am not sure if I will be able to make it because I will be on family vacation. I will ask my wife, the boss, if she'll allow. I'm not, but I will get back to you guys with that. And if I'm unable to, then I may ask Tim if he can, step in for me, depending on our situation more broadly as a board. So I will be in touch about that next week. But are there any other items that anyone wants to bring up?
I'm available that day, Jeff, if you need me.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Bishop. Thank you, Scott, and Aaron and the entire staff. Sorry that I wasn't able to get by during Corrections Officer Appreciation Week, but know that this board does appreciate all the hard work that people are doing every day. And the morale seems to be pretty positive in my last visit at the jail. I think, some recent changes have had a positive impact on morale and both among residents and staff, and that's good to see. Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful holiday weekend.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.